I've always wanted to pick up an old vintage newspaper machine, and somebody had one on Facebook Marketplace. So I called the guy up, and he said that he had it still. So I ran down and checked it out, and he had it in the backyard in the weeds, and it was filthy, banged up, dirty, bent up, but he had lived in Oklahoma, and that's where he picked it up. So I drug it home and gave it a good hosing off and just got all the dirt and weeds out of it. And kind of the bummer was it didn't have a coin mechanism in it anymore, but he said he still had it and would try to find it. This particular model has what they call an elevator shelf in it, and that would be where you would load the papers up, and a spring, allows that shelf to fall down when it gets heavy with all the papers. And as the papers lighten up, because, customers are buying them, the shelf raises and stays right there at the top. So you could always reach in and grab a paper. And the other cool thing is in the door, it's got a little wire mesh holder where you would slide a paper in there to display which paper it was. And that would be the last one probably sold back in the day. But it cleaned up pretty good. The springs in that shelf were working, and the Oklahoma, decal on the side cleaned up really well. I don't know how long ago it was in service, but, these things were probably just taken off the streets and crushed and scrapped for the scrap metal. And they're hard to find. I challenge you right now to find one on a street corner. I mean, I know places like 7-Eleven, still sell newspapers, but not out of a machine. Usually they're laying inside, right inside the door where you could go in and grab one. But, yeah, this one's going to be cool because I've got old newspapers I've collected over the years and bought at estate sales and garage sales or whatever. But, it seems like every old addict's got the same ones, when Kennedy was assassinated and when the moon landing happened and things like that. So back in the day, people collected newspapers and big events, they saved them. So I've had a lot of newspapers in different areas of the house here, and I wanted to put them all together, and this is going to be perfect because I can stack them in there on that shelf. And if I ever just want to pull out an old 60s newspaper and see how cheap cars were and appliances or something like that, I can reach in there and grab it. So this one had an acrylic window in the front that was so scratched up and faded from the sun over the years that you literally couldn't see what kind of newspaper was in there if there was one on the other side of the glass. Check out how bad this thing was when I hold it up. Look at that. I mean, you can't even see the tree through there. So I'll have to replace that. I'll get a new one and replace that. But got it inside, put some felt strips on the bottom so it wouldn't mark up the hardwood floor, and started loading all the old newspapers in there. I got my Apollo 11, blast off. Somebody in an estate sale had saved like the full week of the Apollo 11 launch, which is really cool. They've got the blast off, the orbiting, the next day it was going to land. So the newspaper titles, headlines were all about the Apollo 11. And what's kind of funny is right around the corner from where the newspaper machine is, I've got a Apollo 11 model blasting off right there. So it goes along with it. At first, I didn't have that acrylic, but I got a piece cut and dropped it in there and drilled the holes. And then, and now it's got a nice clear glass. You can't reach in there and touch the papers now. That's protected by the clear plexiglass. So that's all in there now. Mine, I guess, on the far right would be this 80 SD tabloid stacker type newspaper machine. And the elevator shelf, again, is probably the type that I've got right there. There's still companies out there that sell replacement parts for these if you can't find them. I don't know how much a coin mechanism would be, but I bet they're expensive. But, those days are gone. You're not going to see a sidewalk like that anymore lined up with newspaper machines. They're gone, at least here in Denver. You can't find one anywhere. maybe just a little tabloid magazine or a free one you might find, but they're usually plastic now and not metal. But back in the day, you saw a lineup of every newspaper, from all the local areas in Chicago and New York Times, and that's it. So that little project came together good, and I'm not going to repaint it. I kind of wanted to keep the history and the patina of that looking paper machine there. So that was a quick project that didn't take too long, but glad I finally got a place to store all my newspapers, and now I can just open it up and pull one out.